right, everybody. Good evening. This is a bit of a pilot test, but the idea is I've been told I have too many hobbies, and I thought it might be interesting to share a few of them with you, people in short videos like this. I'm going to start with a hobby I literally picked up today. So, what you're about to see is all of the first knit stitches that I've really done. Not quite the first ones that I've done in my life, because I had an abortive project many years ago, but I had to completely relearn it for this. So this doesn't look good. It's over here. I'm not going to try to teach anybody how to knit today. There is no point, for one thing. I'm not very experienced at it. For another thing, there are excellent tutorials on the YouTubes on exactly this subject. Oops, that's how you drop a stitch. If any of you are experienced knitters, or at least know just enough to get yourself in trouble, in theory, at least, I've cast 24 stitches on. I'm trying to make a scarf, and I'm just doing simple knit stitches. My plan was to teach myself just the knit stitch, like learn the muscle memory and all that, before I purl or actually complicated projects. Some of you will notice that in theory, at least, I hope I'm doing something style, which I'm trying to think. You're probably seeing the mirror image version of this, so it may not be obvious, but just to accept it that when I get to doing this, I'm carrying the yarn in my left hand, which is somewhat natural for two kinds of people, lefties and crocheters. Well, it turns out I'm both, so apparently I'm a natural continental knitter. Person I trust, Dr. Snooks, has told me that indeed continental knitting rules and regular English knitting does rules, so we'll just take that as a given. It's probably wrong, who knows. Love all you English-style knitters. I'm sure it's great. Honestly, you're probably all doing better work than me. But I thought I'd talk a little bit about the process and also perhaps the perspective as a crocheter. As a crocheter, the first thing I notice is it's a lot of the same thing. You learn a little dexterous trick, like basically you muscle memory your way into the hobby. The key thing to think about is yarn tension, which is just in crochet or apparently in knitting. That is kind of the core thing you're learning, especially early on, is two things. The muscle memory of what are you doing, right? And in this simple knit stitch, it's just where do you stab into the project? Which way do you yarn over and all that? Again, yarn over is the kind of term that a crocheter would use. I have no idea if it's correct for knitting. I'm sure many of you will be appalled by my slow and clumsy technique, but what you're seeing is exactly that. So you bring the yarn over counterclockwise, you sort of pick the stitch back and then throw it off. I'm having a little trouble getting stitches off the needles. There's probably a couple reasons for that. If any of you are really attentive, you may notice that my setup is so janky that I had some needles that were given to me for free, and it turns out the ones that the internet tells me about right for this medium weight yarn project that I had look fine, except that they're actually a mismatched pair. So I'm knitting this on a pair where one needle is a 5 size and one needle is a 6 size. That's probably stupid. I think after I learn a little bit, I'll probably make a quick purchase of a actual decent set. And here I can find, here's actually a good example. I don't know if you'll be able to see that up close, but you can see that there's something a little off about this stitch. I don't know if I can focus well enough to show you exactly what's wrong, but what I can see is we've got this stitch right here, the one right on the end, is a double wrap for some reason. So it's different from the other stitches, which have a single loop coming over. I don't know what I did wrong. I have some ideas. I don't know how to fix this. So what I'll probably do is just treat it like a normal stitch. Go through, pick up, and then try to throw the whole thing off and probably get a mess, although I might just get a loose or goofy stitch. I don't know. It seems to have worked out. That's the kind of thing that you deal with. Like, here, let me show you this project again. It was kind of messy. And it's especially obvious on this side. I've done a bunch of things that were clearly mistakes. I was laughing to my friend Dr. Snooks that it appears that I started out by casting on 24 stitches, which I then followed up with by halfway through the project. I think I counted that I was down to 22 stitches in the middle, and then somehow I seem to be back up to something like 24 loops cast on. One of the differences, I don't know if it's a real difference between knitting and crochet. In crochet, it's not that you have to count the stitches, but there's no sort of intrinsic metric except, oh, I got to the end of the row, I was above, I guess I'm done. Whereas in knitting, at least in theory, if you're not doing increases or decreases, which honestly I don't know how to do yet, then what happens is you put 24 stitches on at the start, and once you're done your knitting of the row, the stitches are naturally transferring from one needle to the other. So when you pull the last stitch off of the one needle and onto the other one, you've got kind of a built-in, you've reached the end of the row marker. Anyways, I find crochet before this and now knitting, hopefully, eventually, when I get, a few thousand stitches in, very pleasant because these are easy crafts these are easy work with your hands little hobbies to do in a small house, which is what I have. We live in an apartment, less than 1,000 square feet. Doesn't matter, but it means that, for example, I'm not going to be taking you out to my machine shop and showing you me lathing up new parts. Instead, what I'll be showing you is things that can be done on the kitchen table, in the kitchen, or, out on the deck, or as this one can be, right in my little office, if I remember which direction to go so I'm not purling or something instead of knitting stitches. So I'm hoping there'll be a few fun surprises, but generally what I'll be showing you is some interesting crafts, talking a little bit about interesting stuff about the hows and whys of crafting. I just find working with my hands incredibly soothing for a variety of reasons that'll be obvious to those of you who know me, might be less obvious yet to anyone who doesn't know me, but will become obvious soon enough. So I will make no promises. In theory, what I'm hoping is that this will be sort of a regular, very short, I'm thinking 10 to 15 minutes, so something I can knock off live on a break kind of thing. Streams where I do them in little nibbly bits like that. You can watch them as little bite-sized pieces. They'll be kind of low tech, and then I'm going to commit to not doing much editing. But that should be fun because given the way that I work and the way that I work at Hobbies, that should make for some pretty good screw-ups. I hope you'll enjoy those. Some of the things that we'll probably cover in the next few goes at this, if I keep up with it, some of the stuff I've got on the go. I could show you a bit of crochet. I might eventually fall back to that. We might revisit this project. I'll probably show you the coffee maker and stuff that I built and rebuilt if I can figure out an easy way to do that. And I have some bicycle stuff that needs doing and is worth showing. And last, but certainly not least, I've got a motorcycle project. Motorcycle project or two. If anybody has advice on how not to drop your needle so that you lose all the stitches, I'm welcome to it. Wouldn't be surprised if I'm buying trouble by the fact that I've got these two mismatched needles. So what's happening is you're seeing the slimmer needle that I'm coming off of, and indeed that's the one I just slipped off of twice. In fairness, that second time I don't know if it counts as slipping off because there were no stitches left. And there you go. So I've finished up that row while I was chatting with you. I don't know. It's getting, I feel like this is pretty good for a project that must be about the, you're seeing somewhere around the 125th knitting stitch that I've done, uh, on this project, which more or less marks the start of my serious attempt to get going on and sustaining the knit. My running joke is that this is supposed to be a scarf, and if I deem that eventually I get an acceptable result out of it, then it'll be a scarf for my niece, one of them. And if I don't get a good result out of it, then it'll be a scarf for my dog. So this is supposed to be a preview, so it's going to be pretty quick and pretty dirty. See, I've got all of a couple of viewers on the live stream, so I hope you're enjoying it. And for all of those who catch up to this record, I hope it seems fun too. So have a good evening, and we'll rejoin this in the near future, I hope. Bye now.